Welcome to the second class on the structure and details of the second Beis Hamikdash. In the previous class, we learned about the Har Bayis, and in this class, we're going to learn about the Ezus Nushim. So for starters, it's called the Ezus Nushim because there was an upper level porch which was made for the woman. So that's indicated over here in the highlighted yellow, that here there was an upper level porch for the woman. Now it's unclear exactly how much of it covered, whether it was the entire area here, also whether it extended here because there were doors here to come into the Ezus Nushim, also whether it extended here because there were doors to go into the Azara. But either way, around this section here, there was an Ezus Nushim, an upper level porch for the woman. Now for the entrance to get into the Ezus Nushim, so in front of the Ezus Nushim, there were 12 steps, and each one of the steps was a half a amma high and a half a amma wide. So that means that the Ezus Nushim was 6 ammas higher than the Har Bayis, because there were 12 steps, and each step was a half a amma high. Now for the size of the Ezus Nushim, so the Ezus Nushim was a perfect square, it was an exact square, and it was 135 ammas by 135 ammas, which is around 212 feet by 212 feet, and later we'll show a representation of what this size is. Then over here we have in the corners these rooms. So these rooms are called leshachas, and they were also exact squares, and they were 40 ammas by 40 ammas, which is around 63 feet by 63 feet. And again, later we'll show a representation of what this size is. Now let's learn what each of these rooms were used for. So we have these 4 rooms over here. They were all open to the sky. They didn't have a ceiling. So the first room over here on the bottom right, which is the southeastern corner, so that was called the Lishkas Nazirim. And it's where the Nazirim would cook their carbon shlomim and cut their hair, which they would then burn on the fire that they used to cook the carbon shlomim. Moving along, so on the top right, which is the northeastern corner, we have the Lishkas Dira Eitzim, and it's where the Kehanim that were Bali Mum checked the wood for worms, and this was the wood that was used on the Mizbeach. Moving along, so on the top left corner, which is the northwestern corner, so here we have the Lishkas HaMitzrayim, and it's where the Mitzayer would tavel and then wait to place his thumbs into the Ezer Yisrael to have blood from his carbon as well as oil placed on his right ear, right thumb, and right big toe, thereby becoming tahor. And finally, in the bottom left, in the southwestern corner, see here we have the Lishkas Beis Shmanya, and it's where the wine and oil was stored. Moving along, so in front of the Azara, the entrance to the Azor, which is at the end over here of the Ezus Nushim, so there were 15 steps. They were rounded steps, and they corresponded to the 15 Shir Amalis. And each one of the steps, like the steps in front of the Ezus Nushim itself, each of them was a half a amma high and a half a amma wide. And this is where the Levim would stand and play their musical instruments on Simchas Beis HaShe'eva. Now, if we have over here 15 steps, so this means that the Azara, which is the next area over here, it means that it was 7.5 ammas higher than the Ezus Nushim. And so over here, where we have the arrows, there were doorways that led to under the Azara, which opened into 1 or 2 rooms. It could be it was one connected room, or maybe they were 2 separate rooms, and it was located under the Azara, and that's where the Levim stored their musical instruments. And finally, there was a Beis Din of 23 judges, 23 Dayanim, which it says was at the entrance of the Azara, so it was basically somewhere in the Ezus Nushim. Now, to go back to the size of the Ezus Nushim and the size of the Leshachas, so here's a representation of the size of the Ezus Nushim. It's basically from Eastern Parkway until Union, along the entirety of Kingston, and then it extends the building over here of 770, the next building, the main building of 770, then it passes also over the courtyard and then halfway into the first building over here of the library. So here you can see it from a different perspective. It goes all the way along over here into halfway into the building of the library. And then for those shachas, which you said were 40 ammas by 40 ammas, which is 63 feet by 63 feet. So that's basically the size of this area over here in front of 770, almost all the way across the service lane. And here we could see it from another perspective. So this is basically the size of each of the shachas. So they were quite large. And with that, we'll end the second class. And in the next class, now that we finished learning about the Ezus Nushim, we'll move on to learn about the Azara.